The topic of bad CG has been a source of huge debate in the anime community and in film criticism in general for quite a while, but this particular topic seems to be growing louder and louder every year as more animation studios try to use CG as a shortcut to save on shots that would have required significantly more time and effort if they had been hand-drawn, and practically everyone seems to have an opinion on it. Even I wrote an article about it a couple years ago, and the discussion is still ongoing with the same points being made over and over again. We get it. Bad CG is bad. But can bad CG be good? Before we continue, let's first try to define what bad CG actually is. The general consensus on what qualifies as bad CG seems to be CG that distracts the viewer from the overall experience because it isn't integrated well enough into the overall shot. Much like bad animation at large, bad CG is something that breaks your sense of immersion and unnaturally draws you out of the story being told, and there are countless examples of this that you can find in modern anime productions. However, being the pretentious film snob that I am and someone who looks way too deeply into everything and eats up metafictional concepts like a 5-star meal, I would like to make the case that, in some instances, using CG to break the immersion that a story has set up can actually be beneficial to the overall meaning of a scene in which the CG is placed. A small but clever example of this can be found in the 3rd season of Food Wars. When Yukihira enters the Chinese Cuisine Research Society in episode 1, he's greeted by a massive line of chefs all cooking in unison based on a recipe and technique developed by the Elite 10 member Kuga. And, as you can see, the chefs in this shot are animated with very obvious CG. While it might seem like a bit of an eyesore at first, the CG in this moment actually works pretty well on a thematic level. As a result of their perfect synchronicity, Yukihira describes the chefs as cyborgs, indicating that he perceives their movements as inhuman. Thus, representing their movements in a way that seems unnatural or off-putting would be the best way to portray them visually. This concept also works well as a contrast to Soma himself, with his cooking often being seen as much more down-to-earth and homely than the others he competes against. Having that style go head-to-head with what appears to be a robotic cooking hive mind bolsters the ideological conflict of Soma's ensuing battle against Kuga, and so the CG visually accentuates this conflict. It's very unfortunate that the rest of the CG in Food Wars isn't handled nearly as effectively, so it could very well be a fluke, but this moment still stands out as being a particularly effective use of bad CG. With this next anime, however, I have no doubt that the CG was a deliberate attempt at drawing our attention to said CG, that anime being Gakko Gurashi. Also, massive spoilers ahead if you still haven't seen the series, and please don't look at the My Anime List description because it completely ruins the plot twist at the end of episode 1. Okay, let's go. For those who have seen the series, you know that it takes place in a zombie apocalypse, with the 4 main girls living out their lives in the confines of their old school building in order to stay safe from the monsters that have surrounded them. And as you might expect, there are many shots of the zombies where they are animated using CG models. As was the case with Food Wars, the use of CG here is to emphasize the inhuman nature of the zombies and the unnatural threat that they pose to the main characters. However, the zombies aren't animated in CG all the time, which at first might pose an issue regarding the thematic use of said CG, but there's something a little different about the zombies in Gakko Gurashi that sets them apart from zombies in other anime like High School of the Dead or Kabaneri. In this series, aside from the stereotypical zombie activities of moaning and walking around aimlessly, it is theorized by our main characters that the zombies retain residual memories of their former lives as students, which is why they all leave when the final bell sounds at the end of each day. In Gakko Gurashi, the zombies still hold onto a certain element of their humanity, and this contrast between humanity and inhumanity can be seen in whether they are hand-drawn or CG. For example, many of the shots where the zombies are physically close to the main characters are hand-drawn because the zombies have gotten close enough to remind the girls that these creatures were once human, thus making it more difficult to confront them. In contrast, many of the shots where the zombies are far away use CG to enhance the threatening and isolating effect that they have on the girls by constantly surrounding the building which they are trying to call home. And this deeper understanding of CG as a tool for cinematic purpose rather than just a shortcut is one of many things that makes Gakogurashi so fascinating. I understand that most bad CG isn't trying to be cinematically intriguing and is mostly used as a cost and time cutting measure, but it's still interesting to think about how something we normally view as bad could have such a positive effect. Thanks for watching, everyone. Sorry I've been away for a little while. I've been trying to catch up on all the seasonal stuff and gathering new video ideas. If all goes according to plan though, I should have at least the next 5 weeks of videos all planned out. So be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more. Special thanks to Jan Rogalski, Rourke Tenjoin, Christine Seibert, and all my other patrons for their generous support. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.